Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. Many faithful LDS scholars have tried to distance Joseph Smith from the Danite raids in Missouri. How responsible was Joseph Smith for those raids? We'll find out more with historian Steve LeSueur. He's the author of the 1838 Mormon War in Missouri, and we'll find out more about it in our next conversation. Check it out. Okay, so tell us what you think about Joseph Smith's involvement with the Danites was.
Well, one of the questions is, well, to what extent, might he have been directing them or telling them what to do, or creating the rules and laws? And, we don't know, we don't have any evidence that he was directly in those meetings telling them do this or that. We just know that the things they did, he endorsed or, approved of and didn't seem to take issue with. Except there was one thing that some historians now, I know Alex and has pointed out, and another historian by the name of Neimer, I can't remember his first name, has written about Avard and the Danites. They have pointed this out, which is this, that after the Gallatin election battle, the Danites organized in Far West and rode to Adam-on-Diamond because they had heard that two Mormons had been killed and the Missourians wouldn't let them be buried. And so they rode up thinking there was problems. Joseph rode with them. Now, several accounts say Joseph was the leader of this group, that he led them up. He was obviously with them. If you know Joseph Smith, some people, well, he was just along for the ride. Well, Joseph is never just along for the ride. I mean, Joseph is the leader of the Mormons, but they organized under the Danite generals. They rode up there to Adam-on-Diamond. The Mormons discovered that nobody had been killed, but there had been this brawl. But they decided they would go visit Adam Black, who was one of the newly elected justices, and they'd heard that he had been opposed to the Mormons. And they wanted to make sure that he would enforce the law and not be prejudiced against the Mormons. So they sent a group of Danites leaders to visit him, and they wanted him to sign a paper saying that, sign a statement saying that he would rule fairly in Daviess County. He was outraged, saying, you have no right to come and threaten me and to do this. I'm a justice. I'll be fair, but this is outrageous. They couldn't get him to sign, despite threats from Avard and perhaps the others as well. And so they left, and then they came back with Joseph and about 100 other Mormons surrounded the house. Though Joseph said they were just there to water their horses. That Adam Black apparently had better water on his property than they had in the Grand River and around Adam-on-Diamond. At least that's what they said. So a whole company of Mormons now surrounds Black's house, and he still won't sign the paper. And so they say, well, would you like to talk to Joseph Smith? So Joseph comes in to the house, and Joseph is very nice. And he said, oh, listen, we've had trouble with mobbers. My people are upset. They would really like it if you'd sign this document. It would just make them feel a lot better. Black was still pretty mad. And apparently, he said, well, this guy here, Avard, he's threatening to kill me or cut my throat or something. And he says, is that what you're like? And Joseph, no. I don't agree to any kind of that rough stuff. That's not my nature. It just, we'd really like you to sign this. And this paper, the statement we have. And so finally, Black says, well, I'll write one of my own. So he writes his own statement of the fact of, I, Adam Black, will, not form a mob or, come against him. I can't remember what he said, but he signed his own statement, and everybody left. And so, that was that. And though then after that, the Daviess County Missourians, including Adam Black, went to Richmond and filed statements that the Mormons were threatening. So and And that contributed to the animosity against the Mormons. Now, back to your question, who's to blame? You were asking me earlier, who was to blame? Well, that the Missourians to blame, for wanting the Mormons to leave, but incidents like this didn't help. But now I'm answering your question, Joseph Smith's leadership in the Danites. So he was up there with the Danites, but he says, I don't, he tells Black, I'm not going to threaten you. I'm not like him. And then after this, sometime, we don't know when, but sometime after this, Avard is no longer a general in the Danites, but he has been, it appears, demoted, and he's now just a surgeon. And he is a doctor, a surgeon. Though if you know doctors at that time, well, anyway. So he's a surgeon. He's been demoted.
The doctors killed more people than they saved.
Yeah. So any case, now some historians, Alex Baugh and this other historian, they've interpreted this as Joseph didn't like Avard's demeanor. He didn't, Joseph wasn't out to threaten people. And so that's why Avard was demoted. And so it's said that, Joseph, that had him demoted. So the question is, who is the leader of the Danites? Is it Avard or is it Joseph? Who demoted Avard?
It wasn't Avard.
No, it wasn't. and so, okay. And so again, Joseph isn't in these meetings directing every little thing. But it's to Joseph, the Danites look for leadership, and, it's to him they're swearing allegiance. And if one of them crosses them and him, then he's demoted. And earlier, the original leader of the Danites, Gideon Carter, he was demoted for criticizing something Sidney Rigdon had said. And so, again, if the Danites are in charge of themselves, why is Joseph stepping in to demote people? So, in any case, that is why, in this very indirect way, I say, essentially, Joseph's in charge in Missouri. The people are, he's not a member of the state militia, but when the Mormons call out their militia, and especially at the end there, it's Joseph they look to. It's Joseph who calls them out. It's Joseph they look to for leadership.
Well, that does bring up one other question I have. I interviewed right there, Bruce Van Orden. He was the biographer of W.W. Phelps. And one of the things that Bruce said with regards to W.W. Phelps, Joseph was the editor of the newspaper. But Joseph didn't edit everything. Mostly W.W. Phelps did everything. And so a lot of times, Joseph gets blamed or credit, I guess, depending on the case, what the case is. But Phelps did almost all of the writing for the Times and Seasons and things like that. And so, there's a lot of people who will say, well, Joseph's responsible. He was the leader of the church. But he didn't necessarily do day-to-day stuff. Other people, he left that to other people like Phelps and things like that. Does that apply to the Danites or no?
No, I would say, yeah, probably does. And so the issue, so the question isn't then, well, did Joseph tell Avard and the rest of the Danites every little thing they should do? Yeah, probably not. And for example, the Danites were involved in encouraging people, strongly encouraging people to consecrate their property. We have no evidence that Joseph told them to do that, as opposed to they decided on their own.
Well, and then could it be the case that sometimes they went overboard? They did more than what Joseph wanted. They thought Joseph wanted it, but maybe Joseph didn't.
Possible. And then in which case I would say, yeah, when was that? And every time we look at something, that they may have, did they go overboard in, for example, in driving the dissenters from far west. And then we look at what, and we don't, and overboard in the sense of, gee, Joseph didn't want them to do that. Well, after they did that, they got places of honor at the July 4th oration. So he apparently was not displeased with that. And we got everything we know about the history of the church with Joseph before in Kirtland and after Nauvoo, Joseph did not like dissenters. I mean, there's no indication that Joseph wishes he'd been nicer to dissenters. So that's one issue. Same with the burning and plundering and the driving out of Missourians from Daviess County. That Alex and also in his recent history with Leland Gentry, Todd Compton, it refers to extremists who went beyond Joseph's intentions after Joseph returned from from Adamon-Diamond to far west. Then they went out and did indiscriminate burning and plundering. And my response is sort of the indiscriminate burning and plundering, for the most part, it had already occurred while Joseph was in far west. In Adamon-Diamond. Now, did he, it's possible he could have disagreed with that. He did tell Hinkle, when Hinkle complained, he says, don't say anything to anybody. When Hinkle complained about the burning and plundering, he said, don't say anything. It'll just discourage the brethren. So is it possible that Joseph didn't like it, but he understood it? I suppose.
Or trying to cover over for things.
But then again, but then again, that after he gave his big speech at the cannon, where I've unsheathed my sword and I'm not putting it back until I can go anywhere like I pleased. The next day is when Lyman White went out and plundered and burned Millport, and so and Joseph was still there. So I have to acknowledge that we're trying to interpret Joseph's intentions based on what happened. And so Alex and others are willing to, well, his intention was really good. He wouldn't have liked that. And I'm saying, well, based on what I've seen occurred while he was there, he didn't seem to oppose it. Yeah.
So the buck stops with Joseph is what
these
you're saying.
Activities, yeah. And these activities occurred while he was there. He was not out in the field, and so he wasn't directing, he wasn't telling him, steal this pig, but don't steal that one, or, burn this house, but don't burn that. The soldiers had to make their own decisions. And so maybe they made decisions that he would not have made, but he had sent them out there. And I'll just, and again, the problem is we don't know Joseph's intention, because he and Hiram, who was also there, they claim, well, no, we didn't do any burning. The Missourians burned their own homes and blamed it on us.
That's a pretty suspect defense.
So you raise a good point. We don't know for sure. I can't say absolutely this was Joseph's intent. This was not Joseph's intent. We just know what happened while he was there and generally directing things.
Okay.
And also, by the way, he never condemned the Danites. That he did condemn Avard, and he said, we've learned since being in jail that Avard taught some things that we didn't approve of, but he did not criticize the Danites themselves. And so then we're left to speculate. So what were the things that Avard taught that he would not have approved of?
And we can't answer that question. Okay.
So, though we could probably spend a whole episode speculating. So in any case, that was for our discussion of, did Joseph lead the Danites? And so there you have the the issue of some historians want to say, well, no, he didn't, but they also want to argue that, but he got rid of Avard, or he demoted Avard when he learned from Adam Black that Avard was threatening to cut his throat. So which is it? Was he in charge of the Danites or not in charge, but did he have some influence over the Danites and use it? Or
so who officially demoted Avard then?
We
don't
know. We don't know. And so it's just the speculation that because Joseph told Black, I'm not a bad guy like Avard, I'm a peaceful guy, that therefore, and then that somehow subsequent.
Because wasn't Avard was the one who started the Danites in Missouri? Didn't you say that at the beginning?
Yeah, he and Gideon Carter and George W. Robinson.
Okay.
Generally, and they're the ones who generally said, started it, and most people agree that Avard was the what it's sometimes called, the leading agent, the most active, leader, even though he didn't hold the highest position that Gideon Carter did. And when Gideon Carter was demoted, I think it was Elias Higbee or somebody else was put in the top position. So Avard didn't hold the top rank, but most people agree that both dissenters and Mormons, he was the active agent, as they call him.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with historian Steve LeSueur. In our next conversation, we'll talk about some of the despicable actions of a Missouri militia leader during the Battle of Crooked River.
Bogart put the men on the front line, apparently, so they'd be shot first if the shooting occurred. And one of them was shot and injured, and the other, but he recovered, and the other two got away. So,
like human shields.
Yeah, it's unclear exactly where he put them, but they were in the front somewhere.
Wow. If you'd like to hear the entire interview uncut, please subscribe to patreon.com/gospeltangents for just $5 a month. Patreon is spelled patreon.com/gospeltangents. If you'd like to watch the entire video, you can subscribe at YouTube, Patreon, or on my website at gospeltangents.com and click the yellow subscribe button for just $8 a month. PDF transcripts are just $10 a month, and you can get those on patreon.com/gospeltangents or on my website. I'll send those to you as soon as I've finished completing it. If you'd like to get a paperback and PDF, just subscribe for $20 a month at either Patreon or on my website. Individual paperbacks are available at Amazon.com. Just do a search for Gospel Tangents Interview, and you can find all of our past interviews there. Show your Gospel Tangents pride by purchasing a t-shirt on our website at gospeltangents.com/shop. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts at tinyurl.com/gospeltangents. You can get our latest updates by friending me at Facebook, or you can also follow our page at facebook.com/gospeltangents. Become an insider and you can see the newest videos. Follow us on Twitter at Gospel Tangents. Click here to subscribe, here for a transcript, and over here we've got some of our great videos. Thanks again.